Hello and good evening. Welcome to Right on the Money. We do this the fourth Monday of every month, and because we want you to be right on the money. And you might say, well, why are we, Pastor, talking about money? Well, money dominates our lives. And this is the thing, God doesn't want it to dominate your lives. God wants to dominate your lives in a way where He blesses you and does great things for you. So the goal of this class is not for money to dominate you, but for you to dominate it because it's just a thing. So today we're going to do a couple principles of managing your money in your family. Some of them, three of them tonight, pretty obvious things, but things we can really dig down on. As right now, everybody's talking about the election year and food prices going up, gas prices going up, all kinds of things. Prices just keep going up and up. And here's the real thing is, there's no reason for them to be going up. There's more oil in the world than there ever has been. We can produce food. There's people that are paid not to farm. Why is that? Because they want to drive the prices up. Money. There's no basis for your money. It used to be hundreds of years ago, it was based on gold and silver. Today, it's just a piece of paper. Now it's not even that. They want to go to digital currency all the way around. I think by year 2034, I think is the goal. Then it's just really a number floating in the sky. That's really all money will be. And really, money is only worth what people will pay for a certain item. That's really all money is worth nowadays. And but it stresses people out like crazy. So a couple principles. The first one, Proverbs 21:20. There is a desirable treasure and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man squanders it. So God says, hey, you know what? I want to bless you. I want you have access to God. He owns it all. He can pour into your life. He says the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous, and righteous is not a perfect person. The person who does tries to follow God with all of his heart, mind, body, soul, and strength the best he can. And as they learn and what not to do, to stop doing that and do the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do. We've been doing our Book of Proverbs series on Mondays through Fridays at noon every day. So that's been kind of a theme the last couple of weeks. But here's the thing: a foolish man squanders it. God says, "You know what? I want to give you so much. I want to do that, but He doesn't want you to squander it." And we got to be careful about not doing it. But what He's saying here is make sure that you don't spend more than you earn. Now, it sounds like a really simple concept, but it's really hard to do because people have a tough time doing it. They go, yeah, yeah, I make a lot of money, or I make enough money, or whatever this, but I always seem to have a bill here, or a bill there, or this going on here, or that going on here. Here's the thing. How do you know if you're spending less than you earn if you actually don't keep track of it? I tell people all the time, you know what? If you want to know if you're doing okay, put a name on every dollar. Everything you spend, put a name on every dollar. And if you're always struggling from month to month, or sometimes week to week, I know, God doesn't want you to live paycheck to paycheck. He doesn't want you to live like that. Sit down with your family and say, we're going to put a name on every dollar. We're going to know where every single dollar goes. Now, here's the thing. If you're leading your house, okay, you need to involve your husband and your wife, and you need to involve your children in this. Because here's the thing. If you try to do it alone and they're not on board with the plan, you're going to cause a lot of stress in your family. Why can't we do this? And they don't have a reason. When people have a reason for things, they're more likely to get on board. You find that kids and even teenagers, they're quite resilient and also be a blessing for your family going forward. Because if you're not living well now and your kids are seeing that and they go the same thing, you're not going to be there to help your kids in the future. They're going to get in the it's just a snowball effect that goes on and on and on. So you need to learn how to do it. Sit down and say, hey, we're going to spend the next month. Actually, I suggest 3 months. Because 1 month doesn't usually solve the problem because things usually a quarter. You ever heard quarters in the business talk? That's every 3 months, and you kind of get an idea of bills that come in through that time period and how things go. So I'm going to put a name on every dollar we spend. We're going to write down what we spent that dollar on, and then when you look back, you go, oh, this is how much we make, and let your family know how much you make, so they know what's going on. What is your take home? What's going on? So they have an idea. If they have no idea, they think if your children think you're making buku bucks and you're not, they need to know that because. Well, why can't we go out to McDonald's tonight or Burger King tonight? Well, we need to go out less so we can do other things better in the future and have better quality time. Because here's the thing, money is a thing, but it affects you emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. It takes peace away from you. People go to bed worrying about money more than anything else. how am I going to pay that bill? How am I going to have my kids want to do this? How am I going to make this happy? It causes a lot of stress. But if you know where every dollar is going, then you can make plans. And we'll get to that in a second. But we need to know where that's going. But everybody's got to be on the same page, the same goal. When they are, there's less stress. If you, as the leader of the house, say, hey, I'm going to do this, well, I'm not going to tell my spouse, I'm not going to tell my kids about it, they're going to continue to do the same things they always do, and they're not going to know why. And when you make decisions based on things, they're going to have no idea why. It's going to cause immediate stress in your life. Here's the thing: you got to be transparent when it comes to money with your family. Remember, your family is your family for life. They should be involved. There should be anything secret from them, especially when it comes to finances, because they can affect everything. They can affect the future. They can affect your grandkids' future. Let's get it right now. Now, here's the thing: you might say, "Well, this is what my parents did." If they messed up. Stop, stop the cycle. Okay, you can. God has given you a brain and asked you to use it. Now, those 3 months could be difficult. You might have to sacrifice a lot of things, but when you name everything, you still might be going in a hole. And if you are, that's okay. Don't think you have to immediately fix the problem, because sometimes when we do that, you know what happens? We actually get to a worse problem. And the first thing you do is because you can't fix the problem until you know exactly what the problem is. Because what happens is you say, well, just cut that out, cut that out, cut that out. Well, sometimes some of those things we think need to cut out are things that our family really enjoys that needs to be done. Because you know what? We don't just work to pay bills. We work so we can live life. We want to be able to live life outside of the work. So sometimes some of the things we cut are knee jerk reactions, and what we got to do is why I'd say the dues over 3 months, because then you sit down with everybody and say, oh, well, we really don't need that, or like, well, yeah, we need that, but we can do it in a cheaper way. We can do it in a better way. Or this is just as good as that, gives me the same result. Then you can take a look back and say, okay, now these are the changes you're going to make that's going to give us the quality of life we want and not cause stress in the family. Now, you might look at it back then and say, boy, we can't have the quality of life. Then that make a couple changes. Maybe you got to downsize. When they say, well, this is the good stuff's going to happen from downsizing, people are more apt to downsize. Or maybe, hey, we need to make a sacrifice and go back to school and get a better job. And then people are like, okay, well, but we have a plan now. We know how we're going to fix the problem. We know and this is what we're going to do in the short term for this, so we can have a better long term result, better happiness, a better quality of life. And that's why you need like a 3 month snapshot to really have an idea. And some people say, why not 6 months or 12 months? Well, you don't want to get too far in the hole, because if you got to let things ride for a little while, 3 months is a lot better than 12 months. Letting things ride before you fix it. But 3 months will give you a pretty good indication of your habits. Because what'll happen if you just do it over a month or a couple weeks time, you'll make some changes, and then if it's not the right changes and things don't change, you'll go right back into your old habits really quick, because you haven't really found out what the real problem is. And when I say problem, maybe it's not a problem. And some people just, it's not a problem. It's just how things are being spent. And we just got to readjust how we do that, when we do that, and why we do things. I remember years ago when we were in between churches, and I had to take a pay cut. Actually, every church I've taken a pay cut a lot of my life, but God's blessed. And so we would sit down with our kids and say, hey, you guys like going out to eat? Yeah. Like going out with our friends and hanging out. That's great. But we're going to do, we go out, we're going to order a little bit differently. And one thing we do is we only order water, because soda is outrageously outpriced. And my kid said, why? And so I sat down and I said, hey, here's the deal. Soda, when we did this, sodas were about 250. And so I said, 250 times 4 of us is $10. Our average bill this is like 10, 12 years ago. So, when they were younger, they were just starting school and learning about math. And I said, okay, well, here's the deal. If our average bill to go out, say, is $30, okay, and well, say 30, $35, okay, going out. But if we get rid of the water, that brings the bill down to $20, $25. And then that same amount of money we're going out to eat, if we can go out to eat more, or the same amount, but spend less money and save money in the budget going forward that we can spend to other things that we need to do in the family, or say you want to go to a camp or do something, we'll have money saved and put back for that. When they understood that, they're like, oh, because they were like, we like soda, we like this and all that. And now, to this day, my kids are 19, 21. We go to a restaurant, and things are better now. And I'll say, hey, do you guys want to get a soda? No, Dad, we want water. We'll sit at a table before any of us sit. They'll say to the waitress, water's for everybody. And they've learned that lesson because they know it's just simple things. It's simple things you can do because think about it, $2.50 for a glass of soda. You can go to Walmart and buy a Coke for $2 or 2 liter. Feed your whole family for $2. But the restaurant you're spending nowadays is like $3 or more for a soda. Now you're spending $12 for a family afforded drink, where you can go buy a 2 liter for $2. Or I think it's $2.38 now. I think I saw Coke the other day at Walmart. $2.38. All four you could drink from it, versus paying $12 at the restaurant. So it's just things like that. When you start putting a name on every dollar and you include everybody in it, you can make changes in life that can do for your family. Now, that's just a small thing about sodas, but you apply to other parts of your life. When it comes to why do we do this and not that, or why should we change insurance companies, or why did you make the effort? One of the things you can save money on every year is your insurance. I'd been with a certain company for a long time. I'm not going to name the company. It was one of the big insurance companies out there. And one year they had a massive raise in insurance, and I went in. I was complaining about it. I'm like, I've been with you. I was with them for 19 years, and just paid the bill every year. And I want to do this. And I said, what am I going to do? You said, well, you could. You could go look somewhere else. So I went and looked somewhere else, and I got a price, and it was hundreds of dollars less than what my company was charging. So I went back to say, "You want to keep me as a customer? Hey, I'll do this. Just meet me here, or come down a little bit." I was willing to still pay more to stay with them because I was loyal if they would meet me. And here's what the guy said to me. This is the insurance agent said to me. He said, if you want to pay that type of price every year, you're going to have to go online and research and find a new company. Big light bulb went off in my head. You know what I did? I went back to the other insurance company and said, "Hey, throw the bums out." All right, here we go, and I paid that. And every year, what I do? I go on and I go out and I hunt up other insurance companies, because you know what, they give you a deal the first year because they want to get your business, and then they start gradually increasing it. We've done it here at the church too. Every couple of years, we reassess our insurance needs. We've gone. We started with one company, went to another company, now we're back with that company, and probably we'll go back to the other company probably a year or so from now, because it's God's money. We want to take care of it, but it's also, in your family, think about that. Now, the interesting thing is I'm now with the company, another national company, not quite, not one of the name brands you see on TV, but a national company. And every year I go and research it, and I go back and I say, hey, this is what it is. You know what? They have met it or even got below it. So I've been with this company now for I think 8 years, but they're not, they're saying, hey, we appreciate your loyalty, we appreciate you paying on time. Yeah, you found another, we'll match it. So it's great. So it's what you don't have to just accept the bill where it is, and that's something you can also pass on to your spouse and to your children. And this is why we're doing what we're doing, why we're doing things going forward. So make sure you put a name on every dollar, and do like a 3-month snapshot, and then you can start making changes. And the goal would be within 6 to 12 months, getting it under control where you are spending less than you're earning. And that will be great. Now, with all that being said, sometimes there'll be moments in life where you have to spend more than you earn because an emergency comes up. Car breaks down. You go to the hospital. The list is endless. Here's the thing. Doesn't make you a bad person. Everybody faces those in their lives. Okay. So another thing you need to do in order to have peace and be right on the money, part of spending less than you earn is realizing that those moments are going to happen and preparing for them. Having an emergency fund set up. So when you're doing that, say, hey, we're not going to do this. We're only going to go out say 3 times a month instead of 4 or 5 times. And those times that we would go out, we spend that $30. We're going to put that into an emergency fund and build that up till we get to a certain number. I always, some people say $500. I think $1,000 is a good one. That's typically, it might not pay every bill off right there and then, but it'll give you a good start for going into that. And by the way, emergency fund can be as big as you want it to be. You don't have to cap it. Um, but you have that, and it's for that rainy day. So you have that peace of mind that when something happens, you're not like, oh, how am I going to fix the car so I can go to work? How am I going to, oh, my kid needs to see this doctor. How am I going to, because that'll stress you out. And when that stresses you out, then it stresses out your spouse, then it stresses out your children. And it's just a snowball you don't want to see happening going on. Now, when those emergencies happen, also realize this too, just because emergency happens, you get a bill doesn't mean you have to pay that bill right there and then. Everything in life is negotiable. If there's anything you can learn from this class, everything in life is negotiable. Okay, just because someone charges you something, okay, until you actually agree to it, okay, you can negotiate. Medical bills, you can always negotiate with them. The law says you don't as long as you pay something, they can't put you in collection. So and they'll eventually come and make a settlement with you because they always overcharge you because they're trying to get the most they can from your insurance. If you don't have insurance, there's plans out there. Go see if there's help out there. Even with car bills, rent, things like that. When something happens that was totally unexpected, there are all kinds of things out there. Now, here's the thing. I don't believe you should take handouts just for handouts' sake. That's the problem with welfare. People get on it and they think they're entitled to it. If you are a hardworking person and you pay taxes, okay, you pay taxes. Why? So the government then can provide roads and infrastructure and things for you, but also provide for times that you need something. It's okay for you to call upon a government program in those moments of time if you're a taxpayer and you're working hard because you're paying into the system and the system's supposed to work for you. We don't work for the government. The government's supposed to work for us. I know that seems to be not the way things run, but that is the way a democracy is. We elect people to represent us. We live in a representative democracy. They represent us. So it's okay when you're in a financial pinch to go ahead and look to those things and see if there's something out there. Now, here's where you say, well, I don't want to become entitled. Entitled is when you expect that for no reason, and then it just keeps coming. You don't have to do anything on your part. If you're a hardworking person and you're trying to get ahead in life and things aren't happening the way that needs to happen, and an emergency comes to your life, yes, you can take advantage of government programs. And it's not you taking advantage of them. That's probably the wrong word. You're using, you're using them because you've paid into it. You're paying taxes. So when you have an emergency, don't just automatically take out your emergency fund. Say, is there something I can do about this? Almost every medical bill has some type of financial assistance that can come with it, some way to do it. You can work out a payment plan. Everything is negotiable, okay? And the people that are billing you for an emergency situation, they want to get paid. Now, so therefore, it is in their best interest to work with you. Maybe it's a payment plan or something like that, but they do want to get paid. And you explain, hey, we weren't expecting this. Okay, the person on the other side of the table, they have emergencies in their lives too that they weren't expecting, and everybody has them. That's the thing. No matter who you're talking to, no matter what company you're talking to, what hospital you're talking to, what bank you're talking to, everybody has had a moment in life where they've had an unexpected thing come in their life. So it's not like you say, well, they're not going to understand. If they're a human being, they're going to understand, as everybody faces them in life. That's how you approach it. Oh man, you're evil. You're not going to, you say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I can do. Can you work with me? So you're not saying you're not going to pay it. So one of the things you do, people do this. They ignore the bill for months and months and months. It goes to collections, and then they try to go, well, you just got to work with me. Well, the collection agency, first of all, the company is already mad at you because they sold it to the collection agency and they got like 10, 20 cents on the dollar. And the collection agency don't care at all because they can ruin your credit and do whatever they want. Work with the person you started with and work with them right away. Say, okay, yeah, I know I needed this. Can we work out a plan? Can we work out something? I want to pay. When you start saying, I want to pay you as your first statement, that helps grease the wheels. Because everybody deals with emergency situations in life. Everybody has it sometime in their life. No one's immune to that. It's when we put things off. Because here's the thing: you might work at the company, and they might think they're going to be mean to that. But if you put them off for months and months and months and months, they're going to be less excited to say, "Oh, well, they haven't paid me for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, whatever." And now they want to work out a payment plan. I don't know if that's going to work. Now they're skeptical. But if you work it out from the get the bill, say, man, I know I needed this car part done. I needed this thing done. I needed this emergency room visit done. But I just can't pay it all right now. And start at the beginning. You'll be amazed at how things can happen. Now, if your emergency fund, they don't go with it, hey, then you use your emergency fund right there and you pay that off, okay? Or do the best you can, okay? And that's all God asks for you. And then put it in God's hand and sees what happens. So it's a very important thing to do with that. And then another thing, you need to try to think long term. Proverbs 16:9 says, a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. Let the Lord, plan things out and then let the Lord do that. It says, a quote says this, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. Okay, now here's the thing. Aim at something. You might not hit the something you're looking at. Okay? God, why didn't I hit that? God, I want to make this happen in my family's life. Okay. Remember, God sees everything. And God directs your steps. Maybe sometimes you aim at something, you'll miss it. But then you'll hit a target that's even better for you because God directs your steps. God made the arrow go in another direction or pointed you in another direction. You aimed in another direction. And you actually ended up in a better place than you were because God says he blesses those who plan. Now, here's the thing. If you don't plan, God says, I'm not going to bless that. I direct the steps. It means you start stepping, you start planning, you start going, and then God will direct it to something great in your life. But you got to now here's the thing, you got to give God to do it. How do you do that? Let's go back to naming every dollar. Say, I'm doing this for the Lord because, Lord, I'm taking what you gave me and I'm trying to put these principles into my life. Because, Lord, I'm going to have times where I'm going to have issues and I need you to show up. But, Lord, I want to show you that I'm faithful. God says, if you're faithful in little, you can be faithful in much. So back to naming every dollar. Here's a great way to show God you're faithful and teach an amazing lesson to your children. And it doesn't matter how old your children are. Great example. You're checking out at the grocery store. At the grocery store, your kid says, hey, can I have that $1 Hershey bar? It's probably more than $1 now. Let's just use that for there. And you say to your kid, okay, well, we're naming every dollar and we're honoring God. So why don't we do this? Why don't we ask God if we can buy it? And right there and then, say a simple prayer in the store. You don't have to be loud or obnoxious or anything like that. Just say, Lord, can we buy this or not? And if you feel something ugly in your gut, okay, then that's the Holy Spirit saying, no, you shouldn't because God's saying, hey, you need to keep tight on your money right now because something's happening. But if you don't feel anything, you don't feel any check in your spirit, go ahead and buy that. What have you just done? You just told God that you're taking care of your money. You're trying not to spend more than you make, but you're also not sacrificing your quality of life. You're also, what else are you doing? You're teaching your kid that God is number one in your life and that you trust God more than you trust the money. And when things happen and you have to say no, it's like, okay, the kid sees you didn't just turn him off. We actually ask God about it. And when he says yes, it's like great, and you feel that great thing about it. The child learns an amazing principle. This also works with your adult children. Maybe you're at a restaurant, you wanted to order dessert. You're not sure if you should. Why don't you pray about ordering dessert? Can't hurt, right? And say, hey, I feel good about doing that. Now, maybe you have the money, don't have the money, but God says, you know what? I want you to have a good quality. Sometimes God just wants to bless you. Remember, God gives good gifts. What's a gift? Something totally unexpected. God can do that, but you're showing them that you're honoring God, then God can honor you with it. And then you might end up spending that couple of dollars you could have used for something else, and then God can move in another way that's totally unexpected. Here's the thing you got to understand is we're going to have financial bills in life, but sometimes God can bless you with things that you aren't expecting. There are things more important than money. How about your reputation? How about your family? How about peace in your mind and in your family and in your extended family and in your workplace, things like that? God says, you know what? I can give you that by sometimes I can take care of things without having to do it monetarily. God can do anything. Don't put God in a box. Let him do all that. But teach your family. And teach your spouse that, hey, maybe your spouse is wondering if naming every dollar and doing it God's principles, God's ways is tough. Hey, honey, let's pray about whether we should order dessert. Let's pray whether we should get that extra that ham versus that ham. You might think that that's silly. Well, what's God say? If you're faithful in little, God will make you faithful in much. God will trust you with much. Okay, he knows you'll be not he make you. He knows you'll be faithful much. Then God can give you more. God can do that. Because here's the other thing. Last thing in principle we got to do is we got to be generous. Did you know that 1 out of every 10 people in the world lives on less than $1.90 a day? Can you imagine that? In America, that blows our mind. We can't imagine that. $1.90 a day over 7 days, that's less than $14 a week. 1 out of every 10 people in the world. That is nuts. We don't realize how good we have it. And that's why we need to name our dollars. But then we need to be generous for those who don't have as much. Now, generous, God's saying he talks about money. Now, when you talk about generous, we're not talking about the tithe. The tithe is we give 1/10 to God, saying, "God, you're our support," and that's just a non-negotiable thing. Generous is when you give me negotiable. That's your offerings, your alms, missions, first fruits. Those are where you get to be generous and help other people. Alms when you help someone else. Offerings is when you help do ministry, and first fruits is you give to God to see what God can do for other people and things like that. And it's an amazing thing here. And when you give generously, you know what God says? I'll give generously to you. You want a better reputation. You want more peace in your life. You need something for your family, maybe emotionally or psychologically or spiritually done for one of your kids or family or maybe a coworker or a friend. God says, I will give generously to you. The same you give to God, the God's going to give back to you even better because God has more to give than you can ever give. It's a great deal. You can never outgive God. We got to learn to do that. But if you're living beyond what you're making, you can't be generous because you're always robbing Peter to pay Paul. You got to get that under control. And then you got to realize you're going to have some unexpected things in life. You got to have that under control. Not that they still won't happen. They'll happen, but then you have it won't rob your peace and your joy in your life. And then you can be generous. Here's the thing. A lot of people say, well, I'm just going to start giving now and then get my life fixed. Sometimes, I don't think God doesn't teach that. Get your life fixed because here's the thing. If you help someone else, without yourself being right with God in your finances, all you're doing is transferring their problem to you. You see their problem, you don't want it, so don't transfer it from them to you. Okay? Make sure your life is balanced with God. Make sure your life is in the right alignment with God, being around the money, then give to others. Sometimes giving others is just talking to them, having patience with them. We all have different gifts in doing that. But you know what? And you can do that too. Some people think, oh, if you're not going to give me money, who cares? Remember, money's just a thing. Peace of mind, having someone to talk it out with, having someone to vent to. Those are valuable things in life. And you can offer those things as well. But you can't offer them if your life's not sound, right? You might say, well, I can't be generous in that way with money, but you can't even be generous in your patience and your time and all that if you don't have peace in your life, if your reputation isn't good, if your family's not solid, right? So that's what you need to do. So you need to take these principles today. Make sure you don't spend more than you earn, and how you do that, put a name to every dollar and include everybody in your family on that. So because you all got to be working together to get there. If you try to lead your family without them being involved, you're just going to cause yourself more stress than you have. And then realize as part of spending less than you earn is there's going to be emergencies. Set an emergency fund. Start looking for that, and then when you go places, make sure God is really naming every dollar, and you're honoring God by saying, "Hey, God, can I do this?" And even the simplest things like that extra dessert or that candy bar on the way out the checkout line in the grocery store, and just take a moment and pray to God. It's going to be a witness to your family, to your spouse, also to the checkout lady, right? Or checkout person. I shouldn't say lady, guys check out too. Maybe the person next to you in line. They say, I want to bless God. And when God sees that, and when you do that in public, remember, you don't got to make a spectacle. Just hold their hand and just say a simple prayer. Or just say a simple prayer at the table for the waitress or those sitting around you. God honors that because when you're faithful in the little, then God can trust you with the much. You might say, how faithful and how little does it have to be? Let me tell you something. God sees everything, right? So shouldn't we look at everything as an opportunity to show God how faithful we are in what God has given us? And that can change your life. And then money won't dominate you. you will dominate it because you know why? God will pour the blessings into your life. And why? Because God promises to do that in your life if you follow the principles properly. Well, I hope you enjoyed this today. If you have any questions, feel free to send us a message. We love to respond to your comments. And remember, as always, God wants you to be right on the money because Jesus loves you. I love you, and you're absolutely awesome.